Hey everyone, my name is John Malaska. I'm a product manager over on our runtime animation tools team in Omniverse. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up animation retargeting so that you can transfer animations that were made for one character onto a different character where there might be different proportions, joint names, hierarchy, and other things. So first, let's make sure our retargeting extension is loaded. We're going to go to Window, Extensions, Retarget, I'll type that in, and I got 3 entries that pop up. So we've got the core, which is the back end. We've got the UI, which is the front end, and we've got the bundle, and that'll disable and enable both these UI and core extensions at the same time. They're all loaded, good to go. Okay, so what we're going to do next is load the retargeting window. So I'm going to go to Window, Animation, Retargeting. That pops up down here, lower right. So I've got 2 characters in the scene. And here in the retarget window, I've got a drop down. So I've got to select a skeleton to start. So these work on skeletal meshes, or particular bipedal skeletal meshes. So I'm going to go and select one. I'll select my biped demo, which is a character on the left. And I get a little notification down here that says successfully added retarget setup. And what that does is behind the scenes, the retargeter is looking at your character and trying to figure out everything for you to set up the retarget automatically. And you can see that there's a bunch of information that's here already that just got filled in. So I've got some blue dots up here we'll talk about in a second. I've got some bone information over here, joint information, and I've also got some other info down here. So that's pretty cool. That's called auto setup in our retargeting system. And behind the scenes, there's a lot of algorithms that just parse through your character, figure out what things are, what facing direction is, what the pose is, and sets all that up for you. And I don't have this character in any sort of system. It's just figuring it out automatically. And for this other character on the right, this is a character out of Reallusion's character creator. And we have another sort of path to set those up automatically. So I'm going to click Deborah over here and get her set up. And for this path, we actually have preset files that we include with our retargeter that ships. So for popular rig systems like Character Creator or Render People, you can automatically set them up, and it will automatically identify everything that it needs based on that sort of character system that's off the shelf. So it's 2 sort of different systems, one that's preset based, and another one that's just figuring it out as it goes. All right, so let's move over to our character over here, and let's look at the synoptic first. So in the viewport here, or I'm sorry, in the panel over here, I've got this blue character outline. And you'll see I've got a bunch of circles. All of them have dots around them. And I've got these other circles over here that don't have dots around them. These have solid lines and also have a solid circle inside of them. And this shows you our tags set up. And our tags give you down here. And the tags are ways that the retargeter understands how to remap animations. So we've got 5 core tags that are required to get a good quality retarget: the head, left and right hand, and the left and right foot. Now, these other tags that are dotted, these are optional. You'll get a better quality retarget, but you'll have to set up all your characters that you want to use to transfer animations between. But to start, you need 5 tags, and you can see that I've got all 5 filled in here. If I didn't have those filled in, or the retargeter couldn't figure it out, it would look something like this, right? It would have nothing labeled in here, and I'd have these sort of yellow dots that say, hey, you need, these are the required ones to fill in. So I'm going to go back here and just search for, head, left hand, right hand. This one was wrist. This was left wrist. And right wrist and ankle. Left ankle and right ankle. Okay, so I just filled those in and nothing's yellow anymore. So I'm good to go. Now you can add more tags. Like I was saying, you can fill these other dots in to get a higher quality retarget by going down to the add tag section down here. The body rollout, and then you can see there's a whole bunch of different things that you can add. And you want to add these consistently across your characters so that you get an actual, retarget between one character and another. If one character is missing tags, then they won't get picked up by another character. So consistency is key if you want to add new things to it. And then we also have custom. Custom is if you want to add a ponytail, a tail, or anything that you want consistent in your characters to carry forward that might not be included in the sort of basic biped setup. So here I can go and double click on that and add it in as tail. I actually don't have a tail, so I'm just going to delete it. All right, so let's move down to the bottom section down here. So again, when we brought this character in, everything got set up automatically. And one of the things that got set up automatically was the facing direction. And inherently in characters, there's nothing that tells you what direction the character is facing. There's no sort of piece of data that's attached to the character that says, hey, this direction's forward, that's up. So we need to specify that in the system. And over here, you'll see that the system figured it out all on its own. It said, okay, hey, this character's the up direction is X and the forward direction is Z, and it's got that labeled here with this widget as well. And we can go over and change that, or if something doesn't come in right, we can go over and say, all right, well, I need to change it to something else. And we also can show and hide these little gizmos in the viewport too. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the retarget pose. And the retarget pose is important because we're taking animations and relatively applying them to another character. And so the two poses have to match, or we want them to match as closely as possible. You can see here I've got a character, or both characters are in T-pose by default, but not all characters come in T-pose, or they don't come in a consistent pose with every other character. Some people do a relaxed A pose, some people do T-pose, some people do whatever they want. And so we recommend everything gets into T-pose at some point. So your character's, this retarget pose gets into T-pose. But if it isn't, like if I go into this character over here and I, roll this out a whole bunch and get down to, let's see, we'll keep going to clavicles and arms. Let's say my character's arms are down like this. And I'm going to rotate them down. I'm just going to do a not great job. But some characters are built like this. I can take this character and I can extract this character's pose and try and match it to this character, or vice versa. So in this case, I'm going to try and set it back to T-pose. So I can go and I can use the match function down here, but I could also view the retarget pose, what it's actually set to right now. I can reset it to the default, which is usually going to be the bind pose, or I could apply it. In this case, I'm going to apply it. So I'm going to say, okay, I actually want to apply this A pose. I don't really want it, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I'll show you how you can get out of that. So if I had a character that was like this, I would say, all right, well, I want to match this character to this character's pose. And I'd say, all right, match with my Dipper character. I'll say, okay, match. And then it goes back and sets everything to T. It's not actually setting it back to a default pose. It's creating a new pose that's trying to match it with this Dipper character's pose. So that's pretty handy if you have a bunch of characters you're pulling in online or offline and trying to, build a consistent pose across all your characters. Okay, so we've got another section down here. That's the automate or auto section. And you remember that I pulled in these characters and they got automatically set up. That is because these checkboxes are set. If I want to try and use the mapping file, which Deborah did, it did that automatically. If I wanted to set the facing direction for all these for this character, it did automatically. Tags, and that's what it set for this character automatically, and retarget pose. So it's up to you if you want to rerun these or turn them off or just never use them. You could also just try to use only the mapping files. It's totally up to you, and you can run them piecemeal too. Like I'm like, hey, facing and tags, I want to reset those. So I'm going to go into this character and delete these tags, and I'm going to set the facing to be really bad. Let's set it to something wacky. Okay, so if this got messed up, I'd go back in the character and I'd say, all right, I want to run the facing and tags. I just want to fix this. So I hit run, and it goes back in and it reruns the operation and fixes everything back up for you. So this is a really helpful tool if you ever want to go back in and you need to sort of do some custom work to figure things out. Okay, so I've got my two characters here. I've got my Deborah character, which is set up correctly. I've got my iPad demo character that's set up correctly. On the Deborah character, what I'm going to try and do is preview what this retarget would look like. So I'm going to use the preview function down here. So it's going to tell me to select the source skeleton to preview on. I can select one of the animations that we include with the retargeter that you can use to preview, and they are built using this biped demo that we've got over here. So you'll see him pop in a second. So what I'm going to do is maybe click on, idle wave. Let's get this Deborah character. Let's see if she can wave well. So I'm going to do start preview, and You see that my Deborah character snapped into the preview pose to match this other character, this new preview character that popped in. We'll go down here and I'm going to scrub, and you can see that I'll move over a little bit for you. And you can see that, the two characters are, pretty darn close to each other in terms of retarget. The fingers aren't in there. That's because this character does not have fingers labeled in the retarget or tagged in the retargeter window for it. And we can always go back and fix that too. All right, so the preview looks pretty good. So at this point, if I were trying to use this character in production, I would just save it out and call it a day. I probably want to save it in its own file. You want to probably use each one character in one file. It's up to you. The workflow is totally up to you. You can have 3-4 characters in a scene and set them up for retargeting all there, and then use them, reference that into other scenes that you've got. Okay, and so one more thing we want to talk about today is animation binding. And the first step when it comes to retargeting is setting up your retarget and saving out your scenes. And there's a lot of easy things to do there. But we also have to tell the system what characters our animations were derived from, or where they came from, right? That's not stored by default or inherently in all the animation clips that we bring in. So we need to tell the retargeting system where the animations came from. And I know for a fact that this animation right here came from this character over here, but the retargeting system does not. And so what I need to do is add a binding between this animation and this character. Because if I just go apply this animation to this character, it has no information about this other character's retargeting setup applied through the animation and then back to this character. So let's go ahead and do that and set that binding up. So if I go to right click on my animation, I go to add animation skeletal binding, go to the property pane. I'm going to select the biped demo because that's where this animation came from. And now it works. I have this animation that's applied to this character already. And you can see that it activated and clicked in. So basically what's happening is I've got that binding set. And when I go and apply this animation to this character, it walks back to the animation and says, hey, what character did you come from? Because I need to check my offsets and I need to check the retarget tags. And this animation says, okay, hey, I came from the biped demo. And so at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to a workflow. You can do this all like we just did here in one scene file, or what you can do, and we do recommend this, is you take your character and all the animations built for that character, store that in one scene, set up the binding, set the retargeting on that character, and then reference that scene into other scenes with multiple characters that you have, maybe something like this character or any character that you've got that's already set up for retargeting. That way your binding stays intact, and so you don't have to go and reapply it every time you add a character and an animation for that character into the scene. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please visit nvidia.com/omniverse-tutorials for the full collection, and thanks so much for watching.